I've rarely seen a VR game with such a positive response from both creators and gamers alike, but it's for good reason. This game proves that a small team of developers is all it takes to make a great VR game, so let's talk about Arken Age. By the way, make sure to select 4K 60 in YouTube to get the full quality of the footage in this video. Now I know I'm a little bit late with this review, but I was away in Las Vegas at CES testing out all kinds of crazy new VR tech, so stay tuned for those videos very soon. Also, thank you to the devs for their patience and sponsoring this video. And if you know me, then you know I never hype up VR games that aren't worth your time and hard-earned money. Whether a video is sponsored or not, my priority is always to provide you with the good, the bad, and the ugly no matter what. Thankfully, Arken Age has a lot more good than bad and ugly, so let's get to it. And as always, you don't need to worry about spoilers because I'll do my best not to show any of the important bits or stuff from later on in the game so that you can enjoy it as much as I did. Starting off with the graphics, this game looks gorgeous and almost every element on your character, the environment, or the weapons is crafted to a very high level of detail for both the PCVR and PSVR2 versions. The game is currently only available on these two platforms, and while it's unfortunate that those who don't own a VR-ready PC or a PS5 won't be able to enjoy it, you'll see why in just a second. Even though Arken Age's graphics are top tier, it has a lot of settings to help it run on lower end PCs as well. And of course some hidden tricks that use eye tracking on the PSVR2. I played it on a Quest 3 using the SteamVR version of the game, and tried it on both my high-end RTX 4090 PC as well as my older 3071, and while of course it looked better on the newer hardware, it still is a very polished, great looking game that performs beyond my expectations on older PCs as well. I was kind of expecting it to look good from the trailers, but I'm happy to report that this is so much more than just a pretty face. Every single mechanic in this game is made for VR, and it shows in a big way. It's one of those rare VR games where if you think you're supposed to be able to do something, you actually can. And there's very few to almost no awkward button presses. It's all 100% VR mechanics from the ground up. This leads to highly increased levels of immersion, and I truly felt like I was embodying this three-fingered character. The gameplay and combat are physics-based, and there's a huge amount packed into Arken Age. You can do climbing using a very cool mechanic to deploy the hooks by just flicking your wrist and then pressing the grip. This should be a learning point for other developers because either climbing with your bare hands or having to dig through your inventory is just not that fun to do. The game also features swimming, which feels great and natural. Not only that, but it adds a lot of verticality to the maps, which makes exploration as well as how you approach enemies a lot more fun and engaging. Of course, combat-related mechanics such as dodging, parrying, and striking are all really well made, and I'm impressed way beyond what I was expecting here. Fighting each enemy was exciting and has a really good balance between being able to just wave your hands around like a madman and having to carefully think your next move through before doing it. The game starts out closer to the first option, but as it gets more difficult, hand-waving alone won't work anymore. There's deep weapon customization and progression, with the story and variety definitely keeping you entertained for the claimed 15+ hours of gameplay. Now, it took me only around 10 hours to get through it, but that's because I focused on the main objectives more than the exploration. But talking about exploration, there's a lot to see and do there as well. You'll have to collect loot, which can be in chests, boxes, or simply scattered around the map. There's hidden chests and items which all help you progress and become well equipped to handle the enemies in the later parts of the game. If you want to get the best weapons and perks, taking the time to find all these items and secrets will definitely pay off. Now back to the game itself, your base weapons will be an energy sword, a small pistol, and a larger rifle-like weapon. But you will unlock others as well as attachments that completely change the base weapons, and we'll talk about that later on. You'll also have shields that might not seem that important initially, but they're essential later on in the game. These can all be customized and upgraded throughout the game using these weapon upgrade stations. You'll find blueprints for new parts and can even customize the color of each weapon to suit your exact wishes. And you will absolutely need to upgrade them if you want to stand the chance as you progress to more difficult enemies. When it comes to the combat, it felt very satisfying, though the joy of brutal head slashing does drop off significantly once you start getting to stronger opponents that have better armor and are just overall harder to take out. One thing that surprised me was how good the enemy AI is from the very beginning. They don't rush straight at you, and there's quite a bit of variety in their movements and attacks. If you shoot at them from a distance, their first instinct is to get to cover, which is absolutely what they should be doing, but for some reason very few devs implement this. Thankfully, the guys at Vitruvius VR who developed Arken Age did, and they did it to a very high standard. Kudos to the team. Health management is still very important, and you can find as well as craft health syringes or simply eat these juicy alien fruits to replenish your health. The fruits are also what you'll use to make syringes by popping these pimples using the tool on the health crafting station. While things do heat up as you progress, Arken Age never felt frustrating, even when I stupidly died because I forgot to activate my healing or dodge in time. One other thing that can cause deep frustration are bugs, and it's my job to find and tell you about these. But honestly, it's very hard to find them here as the game is super polished and genuinely very well made. I don't know how they managed to get it where it is, but hats off to the devs, and please don't take my word for it. Watch other reviews and give the game a try and you'll see for yourself. All that being said, let's talk about a few negatives. While the environments are gorgeous, there are sections of the game that can feel a bit similar to each other, though again I never felt bored or frustrated by it, but it is something worth mentioning. Secondly, and don't get me wrong here, I don't like games that hold your hand every step of the way, but Arken Age can sometimes get confusing as to what you need to do next or where to go. At one point I got to a place where I needed to collect an item, but then I wasn't sure what to do with it, and ended up running around the same map for 15 to 20 minutes just to then figure out that I was supposed to go back where I initially came from. It's also possible that I'm just stupid, so take that into account. One thing I do hope they will address are the boss fights, which I know has been brought up by other reviewers as well. It's not that they're bad, not at all actually, but you just don't really know how much health these big dudes have. Which I guess if you're going for realism, you wouldn't have an actual health bar, but as fun as it is, it's still a game. So certain elements like these do help and should have been there. It's rare that I don't see an obvious comparison or point of inspiration for a VR game, as 99% of them just feel like VR remakes of well-known flat games. But with Arken Age, it's fresh, new, and genuinely fun to play. The developers did not spare any expense here in terms of VR mechanics, variety, and things to do, and it all comes together beautifully in a game that's being appreciated by every reviewer and gamer that has tried it. You can look at the Steam reviews yourself, but the words wow, innovative, and immersive pretty much sum up Arken Age perfectly. So from my point of view, if you own a gaming PC or a PSVR2, then this is a must-have that starts us off in 2025 with style. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers guys!